I'm Neil Kennedy. I want to talk to you about 4 keys to protect your marriage from a demonic attack. The fact of the matter is, anything good is going to be contested of Satan, and marriage is good. A relationship with a spouse is good. In fact, let's draw out of Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22. When a man finds a wife, he has found a treasure. So Solomon says that a wife is to be considered a treasure. Another version says when a man finds a wife, he is favored of God. I always say this, that a good wife is the physical evidence that God has favored a man. So if you see a man that has a good wife, you know that that man is favored of God. She is the physical evidence that God has favored him. And if you ever want to see the potential of a man, look at the woman that believes in him. And Solomon goes on to say, for she is a gift from God to bring him joy and pleasure. So God is saying, or Solomon is saying, that God has actually gifted you with a good wife. If you have a good wife, you're favored of God. She's the physical evidence that God favors you. He's gifted her to you, and she is the one who really shows the evidence of your potential. I think that that's pretty encouraging. So this teaching is so important for you to understand how to protect your marriage. So let's get into this. And I'm just going to teach these 4 quick principles, and you can take them and run with them, apply them, have some action steps with them. But remember this. Remember that everything good is contested by evil. Everything good is contested by evil. You know, a lot of people use the illustration of Job, and they do it many times a disservice, because here's the reality. Job was a good man, and the book of Job literally documents how Satan has come against him because of his goodness. And a lot of people don't understand that a satanic attack is because of the goodness that is being contested. In fact, you see this in the very first marriage. You see it with Adam and Eve. And you see that Adam needed the complementary design of a woman in order for him to be able to accomplish the God-given assignment to cultivate the earth and populate the earth. He needed the complementary design of the woman. This combating of male and female is actually authored by Satan. It's his satanic, deceptive scheme to bring the husband and the wife in competition. You're not married for competition. You're married for completion. You're married to bring complementary design to one another. And the male and the female have perfect complementary designs. And so you see this contest happening because Satan comes in and brings a third voice into the marriage. This is the warning number 1. If you're going to protect your family from a demonic attack, if you're going to protect your marriage from a demonic attack, you must protect your marriage from the deception of a third voice. Every marriage that I've ever seen destroyed was destroyed because of a third voice. Someone somehow was able to get in and bring a division or a distraction or a deception into the marriage. And you've got to be very discerning to know that this is a potential death to your marriage. Having a third voice. It could be a text. It could be a Facebook post. It could be a flirtation conversation at work. Whatever the case is, the third voice is the destruction of a marriage. Solomon goes on to say in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22, he says, but the one who divorces a good woman loses what is good from his house. So Solomon's saying the real treasure in the house is the wife. He goes on to say, to choose an adulteress is both stupid and ungodly. Yes, it's immoral, and it's also just stupid. I can't tell you how many men that I've talked to after an affair, and and that's their excuse. They just say, "Well, Neil, I was just stupid. I was just stupid. I was being stupid." And uh, that's just the reality. So you're going to have to protect yourself from stupid. You're going to have to protect yourself from the deception of a third voice. So number two, identify the person or the method that Satan is using to introduce strife, confusion, or contention into your marriage. You need to make sure that you're able to identify whatever the method is. Now, it could be television. Do you know, I have found that you've got to be very careful by the indoctrination of this culture into your life. I'm not saying you can't be entertained. You're going to have to be really, really careful and discerning of what you allow to make you laugh. I have found that the enemy will often use humor to bring in perversion. And so we need to be careful. If it's television that stirs up jealousy or envy or fear, is there a relationship that's feeding on conflict? And it's usually masked in some type of sympathy. It's some kind of sympathetic conversation. I understand how you feel, or this, or whatever that conversation is. You need to be able to mark it and understand that Satan is trying to get in to your marriage. And so, if you're going to protect your marriage from a demonic attack, you've got to know he wants this. He wants to bring his third voice of influence, deceptive voice of influence, into your marriage. Number two, he wants to bring in this division into your marriage through deception or distraction or division. Get back to our teaching in just a moment, but I want to introduce to you the Daily Champion. The Daily Champion is an email that we send out to thousands of men. Over the last 30 days, over 250,000 men have read the Daily Champion. But we also have it available or as a printed book. And so get a hold of this copy. It'll be great to have in your hand, to have it with you. You can read it every day. It's 365 words of encouragement. It takes you about three and a half minutes. You can read it, you can listen to it, you can watch it. We have syndicated the Daily Champion on over 300 radio stations nationwide. This is a game changer to really transform your daily commute into communion. So this is for every man. You need to get this copy. You need to get this copy for yourself, for your father, your son, your brother. Any man in your life needs to have a copy of the Daily Champion. Make sure you get a copy of it. We'll get back to our teaching. Number three, if you're going to protect your marriage from a demonic attack, you're going to need to guard your marriage with the power and the presence of the Holy Spirit as the authority of your life. Now, this simply means that you in your marriage need to have a third voice, but the third voice needs to be the counsel of the Holy Spirit, and he'll help you. He will help you. He will give you guidance and teaching and understanding. And his voice is easily to recognize. His voice will not deceive. His voice will only speak truth. His voice will speak kind and comforting words. His voice will align with the fruits of the Spirit. So, if you're going to protect your marriage from a demonic attack, make sure that you do have the third voice, but the third voice is the Holy Spirit. And number four, this is important. You must exercise authority on your home environment. You must exercise authority on your home environment. You can do that in a very practical way by simply walking through your home with praise and worship and prayer over your home. And I'll tell you why. Because the atmosphere that you allow in your home becomes the culture for your children. The atmosphere that you allow in your home becomes the culture of your children. And so you need to make sure that the atmosphere that you're setting for your home is something that you want your children to live with. So again, going back to either television or internet or even friends or family members, that you allow to come in your home, make sure that they're not bringing strife, they're not bringing division, they're not bringing jealousy, they're not bringing any of the fruits of carnality into your family, into your, again, sometimes people will try to be funny and they use humor and they use very rude or crass humor. And you got to be really careful with that. Another thing is you got to be careful what you're feeding on with your entertainment. Again, the atmosphere that you allow becomes the culture of your children. You know what I've learned? That many times it's the appetite of the parents that becomes the children's addiction. So we need to be really careful by protecting our family. We need to set it up so that we protect our home, our family from demonic attack. And if you'll do this, you'll be blessed. If you do this, you're going to protect your marriage. And I'm going to tell you something. In this day, in this culture, you need that. I'm going to wrap this up. I wasn't raised in a family of peace. My household being raised was filled with adultery and addictions and alcoholism. So when I came to Christ and I began to approach marriage, I wanted a marriage. I wanted a home that was strife-free. And thank God that I discovered that where two agree on earth touching, nothing will be impossible for them. So this is important. It's important to find somebody that you walk in agreement with. Agreement is greater than attraction. We'll say that again. Agreement is greater than attraction. So remember what Solomon said, Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22. When a man finds a good wife, he's favored of God. Your wife is the physical evidence that God has shown you favor.